Then we can follow up with implementation. Yes, Deputy Speaker. Give the Deputy Speaker. Yes.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I think on this issue of the petition on pesticides I had placed, it was processed through the committee, and then the implementation has not been done. So we have on many occasions asked the chairperson, Honorable Wanjala, to follow up on it. So it's the committee on implementation are the ones who have failed to act. Thank you.
Is Raphael Wanjala in the House? Majority Leader Owen, can you bring it to the attention? Let me hear Bukose first.
Honorable Speaker, I had actually put on a point of order when I had the response from the Chair of Agriculture. And he did not go into mentioning issues about carcinogenic, because in many of the articles that have been written, lymphomas are said to be developed within 2 years of exposure of high doses of Roundup, which is a glycophosphate. Therefore, I think it would have been important if I think the person who gave him the response did not do proper research, and I would have said that that response was actually unsatisfactory, because it seems to be business-oriented or business-driven, and is not addressing the health issues as pertains to the issue which was raised by the member from Mbeere North. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I think we need a I know as much as Honorable Wanjala should be able to respond about implementation, but I think this House needs a better response in terms of, because Kenyans continue on daily basis being exposed to this Roundup. And if we don't address it, then as a House, we'll actually be failing our responsibilities.
Rachel Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to also make a comment on this matter. Honorable Speaker, I have listened to your deputy, the Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Boss, talking about this matter of agricultural chemicals causing cancer. And I've also listened to the response that has been brought by the Chair Agriculture. And also the kindness of the member from Mbeere, the Honorable Ruku, who almost said that he was not satisfied because he says that he would like to engage further. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like also to appeal to you that this matter of using agricultural products that are causing cancer to be handled with the urgency that it deserves. So I am raising, Honorable Speaker, to say that this is a matter that we cannot wait anymore. Our people are suffering, and we cannot wait any longer, Honorable Speaker. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Honorable Rindikiri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cancer in male is a very serious killer. Mr. Speaker, we are an agricultural community, and the level of chemicals used in the sector, particularly on the potato growing area, is very high. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Health should be in the forefront in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture in determining the kind of chemicals that are applied in our farms. Mr. Speaker, you realize this is not only causing cancer, it's also causing other illness within our community, like where I come from, Bori. Mr. Speaker, where there is very high usage of Roundup, Mr. Speaker, there is a very high level of miscarriage by our mothers. Mr. Speaker, as I said, the level of prevalence of cancer, particularly associated with throat cancer. Mr. Speaker, all what Mr. Loko has said is that these chemicals, by bare chemicals, Mr. Speaker, should be banned from the market. Mr. Speaker, I join those who are advocating for the banning of those chemicals, and I ask that the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Health to move with speed so that they determine the magnitude of this problem. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, support this and request that action be taken. Thank you.
Chairman of the committee, Dr. Mutunga.
Thank you.
The Deputy Speaker has something to say first.
Okay.
Take your seat. Yes, the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm sorry that I have taken a second bite at this topic, but it's something that's very dear to my heart. I think the issue of pesticides, or even Roundup, as he says, is a big problem in the country. It is known by all levels of government, the challenge. There has been a document called the Pesticide Atlas that was developed by 20 scientists from the University of Nairobi. It has been confirmed that 267 pesticides that are banned in Europe and America are in use in Kenya. The Pest Products Control Board is the one that is supposed to make the list of approved pesticides. Those banned pesticides are still on our list. So the offenders here now are the Pest Products Control Board members. I have written a petition requesting for their removal from office to the Agriculture Minister because they have failed and endangered Kenyans' lives. Also, some of those products, like you said, Roundup. In fact, Roundup is no longer called Roundup. Roundup is now still being sold with the same ingredients, but with a different trade name in Kenya as we speak. In fact, the biggest case that was in the United States, the courts there awarded a farmer who had developed cancer as a result of using Roundup, and he was paid $250 million 20 years ago. That is how seriously it is taken in the US. Unfortunately for us, the United States under Doe companies and Bayer under Europe are allowed by their countries to manufacture the pesticides, but not for use in their country, but for export to a country that is careless and foolish enough to admit them. And Kenya is one of those countries. So the failure here, and that is why when I asked Honorable Wanjala why he has not acted on my petition as recommended by the Health Committee, because the resolution on my petition by the Health Committee said that the Pest Products Control Board should take measures to remove the products from the market. They have failed to do so. So the Implementation Committee should actually summon the Pest Products Control Board. They should summon the Minister of Agriculture. But the issue here is the people who are being fought, the agrochemical companies, are extremely powerful. During the time when I was rallying the country against these products, I was threatened with death. So it is big money. And if we don't act as parliament, we continue to kill our people because it is confirmed that they cause cancer and other non-communicable diseases. And when you talk to the pest, I did visit the Pest Products Control Board. I went to their offices and begged them and told them, please remove these products off the market. What they said to me is that they need to do more research. And I asked them that you do not require to do extra research because when something has already been put in a peer-reviewed medical journal, it is a notice to all doctors across the world. Similarly, and I gave them the example of certain cough syrups were said to cause chest problems for children. The Pharmaceutical Board of Kenya did not do another research. They simply stopped dispensing that medicine. Similarly, when certain hormone replacement therapies were found to cause cervical cancer and breast cancer on women, the gynecologists of Kenya stopped prescribing it. They did not do more research. So I beg the members of parliament to take this more seriously, because in as much as we are trying to invest in cancer treatment, we are also allowing the cancer to come in. And these countries have us where they want. They sell us the cancer-causing pesticides, and then they sell us the cancer drugs to treat our people and the equipment for treating them. So it is actually Parliament that has failed the people of Kenya. The Minister of Agriculture has failed the people of Kenya. And I have informed him, the former minister. I have also the Pest Products Control Board are the biggest criminals in this. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and Parliament must set up on this issue.
Yes, Ruku.
Mr. Speaker, this House has failed the people.
Order, members. Order. Members on their feet, take your seats. You can engage while seated. You don't have to. Take your seats and lower the conversation levels. Ruku?
Mr. Speaker, when I read the statement, I was almost crying. To the extent which
that is not what you say. That's not what you said a few minutes ago.
Yes.
But go on.
I want to echo what Deputy Speaker said, Mr. Speaker, that the Minister of Agriculture has failed totally to take that request for statement seriously. And I want to beseech you, Mr. Speaker, to use the powers of this seat to ensure the Minister of Agriculture and all the bodies who are responsible as far as the pesticide control is concerned in the Republic of Kenya, to ensure that Kenyans will not continue suffering when we have institutions which are supposed to take care of them, that via East Africa may be stopped with immediate effect the sale of Roundup and any other chemical or pesticide which is causing cancer to the majority of the people who are in farming, whether in potatoes, whether it's in coffee, whether it's in tea, whether in mogoka, all the crops which are using Roundup, Mr. Speaker, they are affecting even the fishery, because there is scientific evidence that when you spray Roundup in the soil, when it rains, it finds its way into our rivers, it finds its way into our lakes, and even the fish farming is affected by this chemical. I think, Mr. Speaker, we cannot admit that report. I pray that the committee do a good job. The committee must be able to do a good job and prevent the people of the Republic of Kenya. The government of Kenya is using a lot of money in treatment of cancer. We have seen even the treatment of cancer has become a touristic activity, where many Kenyans are going to India and other countries in the hope of
you
getting
made your
treated.
point.
Mr. Speaker, we take this matter very seriously. Thank you.
Women Rep Nairobi on the same issue. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, I was in the Health Committee, and Honourable Gladys, our Deputy Speaker, Gladys Shole, came to actually talk to us about the dangers of pesticides to our food and the continued use of them and how they impact our health. We are what we eat. We are eating to die, not to live, if we continue having these products in the market. I mean, you hear countries that have products that they discover are not good being recalled and being removed from all the shelves. It's such a shame that we're discussing this thing and the people who trade in these products have such impunity. I think this is not just the agriculture committee or ministry. This is health, this is agriculture, this is also economic trade. We cannot trade with harmful products in our country that continue to harm our people. So I think it's important that we have a multi-sectorial approach to this, and we ensure that we also do a lot of civic education so that the public out there knows that these products that they're using in their farms will not be able to actually help them in the long term. It actually could end up killing them and killing future generations, because once it's in the soil, We did a study at the Pan-African Parliament on soil management, and that's a model law that we're coming up with. You find that some of these products that we're putting in our soil will take generations for us to actually get our soil back to its standard. So I think it's important that we really take this seriously. We educate the public that these products really should be removed from the shelves. No one should buy them. And I really hope that the Gen Zs are listening, because really they're the young generation that are going to be eating these products as well. And if most of the generation, the millennials right now in the fossils, have already gotten cancer because of consuming contaminated foods, we don't want the Gen Zs and the next generation to actually follow suit. So it's important for us as government to really take this serious. Pesticides are killing us. They are eroding our soil, and now we are eating to die, not to live. So I really pray that we will have a solution that actually safeguards. And we should also be looking for compensation. Most of these companies are rich companies, and they've exploited Africa. These products are banned in other European countries. They are actually dumping them to us at low-cost prices. People are making astronomical profits. I really believe that heads should turn, and we should be begging for compensation for the people that have gotten cancer in our country because of consuming foods that have been grown with these products. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mama Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi niweze pia kuunga dada yangu Mheshimiwa Gladys Shole. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, kina mama wengi wanaugua, na hata si kina mama, Kenya watu wengi sana wanaugua magonjwa ya saratani kwa sababu ya yale madawa ambayo yanatumiwa katika mashamba yetu Mheshimiwa Spika. Na sisi tusipokuwa makini Mheshimiwa Spika, hospitali zetu zitajaa kila siku wagonjwa wa kansa Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri kuwa kuna watu wamejitokeza kwa kutaka kuweza kuvuna haraka haraka Mheshimiwa Spika, wanatumia madawa ambayo yanaingizwa hapa kinyume na sheria Mheshimiwa Spika, kuweza kunyunyizia mimea ndani ya mashamba Mheshimiwa Spika, na inakuwa inadhuru sana wananchi Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi naomba, dada yangu Mheshimiwa Shole amezungumza, na ilikuwa mjadala tulivyoanza bunge na kumbuka akileta. Naomba tuweze kumpa support, tuweze kuweka taifa ambalo litakuwa huru na maradhi ya kansa Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kuweza kupigia pondo huu mjadala na kuhakikisha kuwa tunaweka sheria haya madawa yanayotolewa mataifa mengine yakiletwa hapa Kenya kuweza kunyunyizia mashamba yetu Mheshimiwa Spika, tuweze kuyapinga na kuweza kuyazuia Mheshimiwa Spika, na wale ambao wanaleta pia wachukuliwe hatua, waweze kufungwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Asante sana dadangu Shole, umekumbuka kina mama wengi wanalia, hatujui nini ilikuwa inatuuma. Ukiingia ndani ya mabucha wakati mwingine unapata hata kuku anadungwa zile sindani zile. Kuku alikuwa mwembamba anafura Mheshimiwa Spika, mtu anaenjoy lakini hajui anakula kitu gani Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi nakusupport na nasema mjadala na hiyo bili yako iweze kupita na iwe sheria. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Dr. Mutunga, you can hear the outrage. It clearly points. Take your seat, Dr. Mutunga, shortly. Dr. Mutunga, order, honorable members. Order. Order, members. Dr. Mutunga, go ahead. Give him the mic.
Honourable Speaker, I have heard my colleagues speak on this particular issue. And Honourable Speaker, when we got this request for statement from the Honourable Broko, we forwarded the request to the ministry. We did not ask the ministry to come to us so that we may ask straight questions on the details. Honourable Speaker, according to this statement, the safety control is by the PCPB, Pest Control Products Board. And the Pest Control Products Board has got membership from the Ministry of Health, besides those who are engaged in checking out what comes into Kenya and what is used here. Honourable Speaker, most of the pesticides and the herbicides And the Roundup is a herbicide, it's not a pesticide. It's not supposed to kill the pests. It's supposed to kill weeds. It's therefore supposed to kill the plants. Most of them are dangerous. And on the label, on the branding of most herbicides and pesticides, those that are dangerous are labeled. There is a label that is put on top of that, on the branding. And then there is the need for safe use of pesticides and herbicides. There is a prescription on our speaker on even how somebody should be dressed. There's a protective kit that is invented to protect people as they use these pesticides and herbicides.
Dr. Mutunga.
Honorable Speaker, I just want to conclude by saying this. It is sad that we could have pesticides or herbicides in this country that are carcinogenic. This report says glyphosates are not carcinogenic. In case there is no report. But I'm happy to hear that my colleague, Honorable Broko, has evidence. I'm also very happy to hear that there are refereed journals which have cited the dangers in some of the glyphosates. Honorable Speaker, I'll be very happy if you could form a joint committee. And this joint committee should have the Ministry of Health, I mean the Health Committee, the Committee on Agriculture, and the Committee on Petitions, so that we can ask straight questions on what kind of evidence do they have, and then present the evidence that we have as members of parliament in order to protect the Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, we should not take the fact that people did not protect themselves as an answer. What we should take is that, is there any evidence that it is causing cancer in our midst? And is there evidence that is actually banned in those other countries? And if it is, Honorable Speaker, we should propose strongly that it is banned in this particular country. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Mutunga, the Deputy Speaker has clearly articulated this issue. She brought a petition. The outcome was positive. She's quoted international academic intellectual journals to that effect. We also know as a fact that these chemicals are not sold in the countries that manufacture them. So you can't ask for any further evidence. Just get to the agencies of government that allow these chemicals to come in, including Kenya Bureau of Standards and the other agencies, so that you engage them and bring back a very comprehensive report after the recess that is coming in 2 weeks, so that we can be, as a House, be able to assist the people you represent. You've heard Rindikiri from your region saying what he said, and many other members. So get down to business, get the Committee of Implementation, look at the report from the Petitions Committee, and you'll bring the response after the next recess. Honorable members, yes, Ruku?
I request, Mr. Speaker, I be invited into that committee so that I can table the evidence which I have. Thank you.
Even if you are not invited, go there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge the following. I don't know if they are still in the gallery, in the public gallery. AIC Messis Primary School from Keses was in Gishu. St. Joseph's International Science School from Ainamoi was in Gishu. Galma Primary School, Garsen, Tana River. Chebanganga Secondary School from Konoin, Bomet. Kataret JSS from Chepalungu, Bomet. If they have already left, we still welcome them nonetheless. They have been in our gallery. Honorable members also seated in the Speaker's gallery are students from Starehe Boys Center and School. The students are in Parliament for a period of 2 weeks on a voluntary service scheme. This gives the young men an opportunity to give back to the community by providing voluntary service to various organizations during the school holidays. On my behalf and on behalf of the National Assembly, I welcome those students to Parliament and wish them a positive experience in their service to the nation. You may take your seats, students. Next order. Yeah? Yes. Yes, we have another. Tongoyo, are you ready with the statement on security? Go ahead. This is a statement requested by the Honorable Robert Mbui.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And as you had already said, Honorable Speaker, this is a response to a statement by Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency regarding the issues of the National PISRA, National Security Regulatory Authority. And the Honorable Member had sought to be about 6 issues. And I quickly just want to, for the purposes of record, 1, the member wanted to know the constitutionality of the legal notice issued by the Private Security Regulatory Authority on 10th June 2024 relating to the minimum wage. 2, the step which will be taken to revoke the legal notice if found illegality issued and the measures put in place to ensure adherence with the relevant laws while exercising the said directive. 3, the details of the process leading to the determination of minimum wage. 4, whether the powers and the function of the Private Security Regulatory Authority under Section 9 of the Private Security Regulatory Authority Act 2016 also include setting the minimum wage, and whether the powers vested in the authority under Section 32 contemplate non-compliance with the minimum wage as a ground for cancellation of certificate of registration or registration of the security firms. And of course, the reason for failure by the authority to resubmit revised regulations envisaged under the Private Security Regulatory Authority Act 2016. Honorable Speaker, and I want to respond as follows. 1, Honorable Speaker, on 10th June 2024, the Private Security Regulatory Authority issued a public notice published as legal notice number PSRA 002-2024, directing all private security services provided, users, prospective users, and representative of the users for the private security services to submit to it legal commitment to comply with a set minimum wage for private security guards. The said legal notice has been a subject of court cases, namely Nairobi ELRC GRE 043/2023, Protective and Safety Association of Kenya versus Private Security Regulatory Authority, and Vazul Muhammad and 3 others, and Nairobi ELRC petition number E011/2024, John Kipkorir and Private Security Regulatory Authority, and 4 others. The principle of sub judice sub judice militates against commenting on the issues at hand. It suffices to state that what the authority issued as a notice was not supposed to be strictly interpreted as a legal notice, but an administrative action to guide for the industry players. This was an ordinary public notice intended to be acted upon by affecting parties. The form of impugnated notice should not be interpreted so as to negate its intention, which was clear to all parties concerned. Honorable Speaker, should the court find that the said notice is illegal, it will automatically lose its validity, rendering it null and void. No further action on the part of the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration will be needed. Question number 3. On question number 3, Honorable Speaker, under the Labor Institution Act 2007, wage councils are responsible for recommending to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor the minimum wage payable to workers and their conditions of employment. Wage councils are tripartite bodies comprising workers, employers, and independent experts. The National Labor Board, which is a creature of the Act, is entrusted with the responsibility of advising the Cabinet Secretary for Labor on appointment of the Wage Council. Once the Wage Council makes the recommendation on the minimum wage and the condition of employment, the Cabinet Secretary may approve the same, after which a wage order is issued through the Kenya Gazette. What the authority did, Mr. Speaker, was not to determine the minimum wage for private security guards, but interpret the relevant wage order, which is the Regulation of Wages, Amendment Order 2022, Legal Notice Number 125 of 1st July 2022, as issued by the Cabinet Secretary for Labor. The order came into effect on 1st May 2022, and was the basis for arriving at the contested figures. Regarding question number 4, Honorable Speaker, as noticed above, the power and responsibility of setting the minimum wage is vested upon the Minister for Labor after recommendation of the Wage Council. Under the said section, the authority is mandated to provide and set standards that ensure compliance with the minimum wage regulation. The authority acted in accordance with the section when it required employers of the private security guards to give legal commitment that they will pay them the minimum wage as per the said wage order. In the process of setting minimum wage, the authority is a stakeholder and may make a recommendation to the Wage Council. These recommendations are to be considered alongside those of other many industry players. The Ministry of Interior and National Administration and as the Salary and Remuneration Commission has no role to play in the determination of wage for the private security guard. Their role, if any, are limited to state public offices. On the last, number 5, Honorable Speaker, under Section 32 of the Act, the authority is mandated to prescribe condition when issuing certificates of registration. An example of the condition is compliance with the minimum wage. Should it be breached, it will be granted for cancellation of the certificate of registration. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the statement, the previous regulation, that is Private Security Regulation 2019, were annulled by the National Assembly because no effective public participation was, and I hope the Honorable Member Robert is listening, public participation was done. The authority was developed new regulation which are currently undergoing public participation. This process has been hampered by lack of funds, hence the delay in submitting them. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the authority did its best to interpret the said wage order. The commitment to pay the minimum wage was within the law. The public notice issued should not be interpreted as a legal notice and a strict sense of the word. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Signed by Dr. Raibon Omolo. Honorable Speaker, kindly, just for a minute, before maybe the member responded, just I want to add one or two things. Honorable Speaker, for clarity, the minimum wage is defined as a minimum and amount of remuneration that an employer is required to pay wage earners for the work performed during a given period of time. And of course, it has the statement has gone ahead to clearly state that in this category, in the private sector, the Wage Council establishes the said in Section 43. And Honorable Speaker, they are stated for record in the said, Honorable Speaker, in the said legal notice, it clearly states the minimum payable wage stated for the day watchman and the night watchman, and it is clearly stated that the day watchman is 15,201, The other one is 16,417, not including the basic, not including the house allowances, which are calculated according to the provided laws. And of course, not also including extra time, overtime. So I want to submit, Honorable Speaker.
Robert Mbui, you are satisfied?
Mr. Speaker, I am not satisfied. Mr. Speaker, there is that report, Mr. Speaker, and the response, in my opinion, they are very economical with the truth, Mr. Speaker. There are three issues that I've picked out from the response. The first one is when they argue that what the authority issued as a notice was not supposed to be strictly interpreted as a legal notice, but an administrative action to guide industry players. Mr. Speaker, why I have a problem with that is because it is actually published in the Kenya Gazette as a legal notice number PSRA 002-2024. So when they argue that it was not strictly a legal notice, they're just being economical with the truth. And Mr. Speaker, they also must realize that the Statutory Instruments Act defines that every legislation which has a full effect of law must come through the House. So, Mr. Speaker, what they have done is implemented a program and given it out there, published it in the Kenya Gazette, and Kenyans have already been made to start to follow it when it hasn't gone through the House. Mr. Speaker, secondly, they've also said that because my question was whether they have a right to determine the minimum wage without, discussing this with the Ministry of Labor. And Mr. Speaker, what they have said is that they did follow, the authority supposedly followed the regulations of wages, General Amendment Order of 2022, legal notice number 125 of 1st July 2022 as issued by the Cabinet Secretary. But Mr. Speaker, the figures that have been put in their legal notice are totally different from the figures that were given by the Ministry of Labor on minimum wage. So that again is also not exactly the truth. And finally, Mr. Speaker, they have also avoided to come to the Committee of Delegated Legislation because they were supposed to bring regulations. The argument, Mr. Speaker, that they have given is that they did not have funds for public participation. Mr. Speaker, the committee has constantly invited them. And if they had a problem of funds, they would have come to the committee and explained their problem so that they're given an extension of time. But Mr. Speaker, they found it easier to ignore the committee and then implement the regulation with complete disregard for the rule of law, complete disregard even for the Constitution, because authority, nobody has the ability and the power to make anything with the force of law except Parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that what they have done is wrong, and they needed to have just withdrawn that legal notice so that we can start the discussions when the legal notice is not in place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chepkonga.
Mr. Speaker, first I want to take this opportunity to thank the Chair for bringing the response to the question asked by the Honorable Mbui, who is a member of the Committee on Delegated Legislation. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that has exercised the Committee of Delegation. I have listened very carefully to what the Chair of Security has said. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I have a serious departure from what he has said. He's my very good friend. But on this matter, it is very clear in the Statutory Instruments Act what a legal notice is, what a guideline is. It is a statutory instrument. The Private Securities Regulation Authority has no business seeking to implement the order issued by the Minister of Labor when they themselves, they are resident in the Ministry of Interior. No one has ever appointed them to implement minimum wage, which is supposed to be implemented by the Ministry of Labor. That is within the purview and jurisdiction of a different authority, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
So for us to be told that we were just issuing a notice, some guideline that has already been issued, it is not their business. The substantive act itself does not give them that power to regulate wages. Mr. Speaker, we've written to the PS, we have written to the minister, and we have told them in no uncertain terms that these are regulations, they must bring them to the House. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, the regulations were nullified by the last parliament. And the law, the chairman should be careful on this. The law is very clear. They are supposed to bring regulations within 1 year of the promulgation of the act. Now, this act has been in existence for the last 4 years. They themselves, they are in contravention of the law. So for them to purport and to pretend that they are trying to implement the law when they have not brought the regulation which is required within the statute itself. The third thing, Mr. Speaker, that has caused confusion is the naming of the act itself. It is called Private Securities Regulations Act. These are not regulations, these are substantial. In fact, I want to ask the chair to move an amendment to remove the word regulations, because regulations are supposed to be made pursuant to the sections that are contained in that act itself. Because it is inconceivable that an act of parliament is also a regulation. So we expect a better response from the ministry than this. What they are seeking to do, Mr. Speaker, is gerrymandering. They are not responding to the issues that were raised by the Honorable Mbui. And we have told the CS and the PS that they must bring this regulation. Fortunately enough, Mr. Speaker, the person who was a problem in the regulatory authority has been removed by a fluxion of time. And so we want to thank his removal. In any event, it's just been a problem. It's just been a problem to this sector. And so, Mr. Speaker, there is nothing the court needs to pronounce itself on. The regulations are a nullity in themselves. There is nothing to discuss. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bashir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I have keenly listened to the statement by the chair, and I think the statement itself is misleading, because what PSRA claims is that they have done administrative action and not a legal notice. However, the legal notice was published by Kenya Gazette, through Kenya Gazette, by the government printer. And so it cannot be an administrative action. But the most important part is that the regulations that are being cited and being implemented by the Private Security Regulatory Authority is one that has been annulled by the 12th Parliament. There are new regulations that are now in the works and in the process that have not even come to our committee of delegated. That means what they are implementing is an illegality, and they are causing a lot of despondency in the industry. My advice to Kenyans, all stakeholders in the school industry, is that the regulations being implemented by the Private Security Regulatory Authority is null and void, and that they should not be cheating Kenyans that they are doing something which is legal. It's not legal, it's illegal. But this House has not approved. The minimum wages are published by the Ministry of Labor. PSRA has no role or mandate whatsoever to get involved on matters minimum wage. Their work is to implement what has been set by the Ministry of Labor. Now it's the other way around. They want to set minimum wage and they want to implement, and that is not their mandate or their role. And I call upon the PSRA, and I want to acknowledge the chairman's resolve that this thing requires all stakeholders to get involved so that we have a regulation that is a win-win both for the employers and the employees. As it stands now, those regulations are not enforced and are an illegality. And PSRA should stop harassing and interfering with the work of private security firms in the country. I submit, Honorable Speaker.
Tongoyo, you've had the chair of delegated legislation, you've had Mbui, you've had Bashir. I would direct you that you relook at the statement. Certainly, that body on its own has no authority in law to promulgate what looks like regulations. Those regulations must come to this House. There is no other body in this country with legislative powers other than Parliament, which is National Assembly and Senate, and county assemblies. Nobody else. In whatever office, whatever they do must be subjected to this House to become regulations and have a force of law. So you follow it up. Yes, Russell? Yes. Honorable Russell, take your seat, let him finish. Let me listen to this first.
Speaker, I think, kindly, Mike, on your direction, directive well guided. And in fact, you must have noted, Honorable Speaker, that we have been in conversation with the chair of delegated legislation. And I think that is the spirit. But having said this, Honorable Speaker, I think, Honorable Speaker, the big issue here, on record, I think there has been an issue of licenses cancelled, cancellation of some licenses of some players, about 9 in number. Actually, when you were interviewing the CS, I think that question came up. For record purposes, and I've got even actually the certificate, those 9 has been reinstated. The minister reinstated them, so I want to be on record that those licenses have been reinstated. And I think on the other issue, we are going to do as guided by you yourself. Thank you.
So,
thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you have guided on what should be done. But looking at what the chairman has presented in form of a response from Honorable Mbui, I think the first thing is anything to do with labor, it has to be canvassed. It is a two-sided thing, to protect the company and also to protect the individuals who are in that particular labor force. Secondly, as you rightly said, Article 94, Sub-Article 5, clearly says nothing will have the force of law unless it is by this House. Thirdly, when we look at this particular organization, private security, yes, it is a new organization, even if it is 4 years, but it cannot work on its own. It has to work with the Ministry of Labor so that individuals working in those organizations are duly protected. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Tongo, you follow up that, and at some point you will be required to report back to the House what steps you have taken and guidance to this body that if they want to make any regulations, they must follow the procedure and bring them to the House. Yes, Mwenje?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise on the same standing order 44. Honorable Speaker, I've had a chance to talk with the chair of Security Committee. If you remember last week, I'd raised a statement regarding a child who was shot in my constituency. The chair has advised that I think the response is not ready. Perhaps he can be willing to just commit maybe tomorrow or the day after, because my constituents are actually on TV watching. So it would be nice if you would respond. But Honorable Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I'd also request the chair, in Nairobi constituency, chair, Honorable Speaker, we had 4 fires in 4 markets, which is an issue of concern. We had in Toi Market, we had in Umoja 2, we had in Madare, and somewhere in Kawangware.
Honorable Mwenje, you'll do the House and yourself a very, very good thing if you file even a question under private notice, which we can allow you to make a request on the floor even the same day. But when now you just ambush us with a speech coming in the guise of a point of order, it's not fair even to the chairman that you are directing. Go and file a question by private notice. I'll allow you to bring it tomorrow. We all feel for Kenyans who died in infernos in Nairobi and elsewhere.
Most obliged, Honorable Speaker, I'll do that. Thank you.
And for Tongoyo, the issue of the child who was shot, can you bring the statement on Thursday?
I think, Honorable Speaker, what the member was alluding to, I think the major concern was the child is doing well. He's actually supposed to be discharged from the hospital. The problem was the pending bill in KNH. And I had managed to talk to the Ministry of the PS, and we are trying to look into ways of helping the, yeah.
And do so, that's good enough. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, report on consideration of the audited accounts of specified state corporations. Question to be put.
Honorable members on their feet, take your seats. Order. Order, Honorable, take your seat. Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House adopts the second report of the Public Investments Committee on Social Services, Administration and Agriculture on its consideration of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the Kenya Medical Training College for financial years 2017-2018 to 2020-2021, the Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital for financial year 2019-2020, the Kenya Medical Research Institute for financial year 2012-2013 and 2013-2014, the Kenya Medical Laboratory Technicians and Technologies Board for financial years 2014-2015 to 2020-2021, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council for financial years 2017-2018 to 2020-2021, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 22nd February 2024. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, nominees to 4 National Government Constituencies Development Fund committees.
Chairperson, Select Committee on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund, Musa Sirma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move that this House adopts the report of the National Government Constituency Development Fund for 4 constituencies committee laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 1st of August, 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015, and paragraph 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, approves the list of the nominees for appointment to the following 4 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. 1, Webuye Constituency. David Lutali Sakari, representative of persons living with disability. He has been appointed pursuant to Section 43(2)(d). The second one is Isiolo South Constituency. Wako Abdi Wako, male adult representative, appointment pursuant to Section 43(2)(b). Nandi Hills Constituency, Henry Kirwa Mutai, representative of person living with disability, appointment pursuant to Section 43(2)(d). Mumias East Constituency, Joseph Owino Odero, male adult representative, appointment pursuant to Section 43(2)(b), and Philip Muyei Wanga, male adult representative, appointment pursuant to 43(2)(b). Mr. Speaker, before I beg to move that for adoption, Mr. Speaker, I have an issue which is very pertinent to members of Parliament and this is on the procedure